All right. Just getting started here. I think some people are having a hard time joining the Zoom call. I'm getting some messages saying that it's asking for a passcode and it shouldn't be. So let's see if we can get that. Squared away here. Let's see. Are we live on Facebook right now? All right. Here we go. Slowly getting some people here on Facebook. We got somebody that hopped on the Zoom. What's going on, everybody? How are you doing? Hey, Ohana Movers.
Made it. I made it.
Made it. I'm imagining it's not your real name.
No, it's not. My name's Luke.
Okay. How you doing, Luke?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. So I just saw you posted in the 10X group, I think it was a few days ago. They're just starting to get into wholesaling now.
Yeah, well, basically what I'm doing is I'm still gathering information. I haven't done anything at all. So that's why I figure, try to join Zoom meetings, try to join anything that I can get my hands on to obtain the information needed. And then figure it out from there.
That's awesome. So what has got you interested in wholesaling?
My sister does real estate. She's friends with I think it's Ty and Alicia and whatnot, and I've always been intrigued by it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never actually looked into it or basically I've just been caught up with what I do with basically I just run basically I've just been caught up with what I do with basically I just run
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm getting feedback here.
Yeah, I was like, that's me. But I've been in for most of my life, I'm in the labor industry, right? And I have a construction background, landscaping background, basically general contracting background. And then I'm actually currently providing moving services. I got into the moving services right in front of COVID because our general contracting stuff went upside down, and I had a hard time recovering. I had a partner that took me for a ride and basically emptied out everything we had. So I had to start from scratch again.
Oh wow!
And God provided me with the moving industry, and it provided for me and my family through COVID. So I figured this is what we're doing.
So you said sister was in real estate?
Yeah, she does real estate. Yes.
So is she an agent or?
I think she's an agent. So she's it's Tambourine McCutcheon.
Okay, cool. So you're just starting out and kind of getting gathering info and stuff. So what do you know at this point in time, and kind of where are you at in that process between gathering info and then starting to do something with that
info? So basically I just have the difference between the seller financing, the sub 2 stuff. I took a couple meetings with the sub 2 guys, or not the sub 2, but what's his name, Pace Morby and them. So I I've been just watching the videos and following along on those types of things. Just I'm completely fresh. Like, that's it. So I know the wholesale thing is, we're looking for not just necessarily distressed properties or anything like that. maybe there's someone, retiring, that the home is paid off. They're looking for a certain type of money or number and whatnot. So I just that, and we can, maybe help them get what they want out of the properties. And then, we go from there as far as finding a buyer. Obviously there's terms involved, all kinds of other stuff, but that's basically all I know. I don't really know much about it. And that's why I'm here.
So, I mean, yeah, so you're on the right track for sure. I mean, basically boils down to, you're a problem solver and you're trying to figure out what the best solution is to, a property that this property is causing the seller a particular problem, right? And so what's the best solution to that problem? And in some cases it's a cash offer for them to get rid of it quickly. Other cases it's subject to, where you're taking over their mortgage payment. If they don't have a ton of equity in it, that's a good strategy. Seller finance, if they have equity in it, but they don't need all that equity up front. They're okay walking away with some cash now, maybe, and getting the rest over time. Or maybe the best course is just to list the property, right? Like when I talk to sellers, that's always a question that I have, is like, well, why not just list this property? Because you're going to get a higher price than a cash offer necessarily is going to be able to pay. And, maybe we could give you more money if you're open to seller financing in terms, but I always like to get that objection out of the way right up front, because they're going to get the most money possible out of listing the property, rather than selling it off market. And a lot of times it's like, well, I hate real estate agents, or I don't want to pay commissions, or I don't want it sitting on the market forever and having a ton of people go through it and all that sort of stuff. So it just, you're basically wanting to get from the sellers, as much information as possible about what their story is, and the story behind that property as well, right? So you can try to figure out how to best help them.
Right.
So what are you kind of seeing as your next steps then in this process for you?
Honestly, it's how to get started. What do I do to get started? What direction do I head in? My biggest question is how to get started, and I don't know what I need to get started, but basically it's the same question. So yeah, that's pretty much here. I know that there's, the cold calling, the door knocking, this, that, and the next thing. I know you can search online, look for not necessarily distressed properties. But I don't have any of that in my hands. You know what I mean? So, and then that's the reason for these types of meetings and everything like that. Some of the firms or people I've spoke to, they don't really share information. They want you to pay for the information. And I'm not there. If I had to pay for something, then obviously there's some type of mentorship. Some is in the 10,000s of dollars, and then there's others that I've come across as just a few $100 here and there. But more than anything, I'm looking to learn how to get into it, what I need to do to start the process of this, and then go from there. That's basically.
Yeah. So what sort of time commitment are you able to do, as far as like, what are you kind of thinking of, like number of hours per week are you able to dedicate to this?
I could, easily put in. Right now, I run a moving company. We're currently slow, but our just in the last 2 days, we booked maybe 8 jobs. But I'm not always in the field, so I can dedicate easily, 15 to 25 hours a week on whatever I need to do. I'm not sure if that's enough, but obviously if we could do something with that, then, that's what I do.
Yeah, and then the other question is how much capital do you have to dedicate to this? So, I mean, there's a number of different ways you can find deals, right? And everybody kind of swears by their own methodology that they use, right? So you got people that run Google ads, you got people that do Facebook ads, hire cold callers, direct mail, bandit signs, driving for dollars, all sorts of things. And so thing that you'll need to kind of figure out is like which one of these methodologies kind of best suits your personality, right? Because you're going to have to do this a lot before you start seeing some results. It's pretty rare where like somebody, for example, just starts cold calling. They pull a list of, tax delinquent properties or something like that, and they start cold calling them and they get a deal their first week or even month for that matter. You're talking about having to do hundreds and hundreds of dials in order to find somebody that's really motivated enough to take a price that actually makes sense as a wholesale deal. So, and if it's not your personality to get, cussed out by people and hung up on, when you're not seeing results, it's going to be hard to stick with that methodology, right?
Right.
So it's going to be, I think, on your part, kind of exploring what the different options are for marketing and going about finding deals, and then figuring out, okay, out of all these different ways, what's going to fit your personality the best, right?
Yeah. So as far as the how much can I invest into this part, I don't have a lot of capital, right? I don't have a lot of capital to invest on a property or rehab or anything like that. I would be able to funnel money into marketing, or if I needed, like you said, the Google ads. I currently run Google ads for my moving company. So that would be more of an avenue that I would, explore. But as far as money for properties, rehab, and everything else, that would be, I'm at the absolute minimum for that.
Yeah, so I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need rehab money if you're just wholesaling, right? Because the idea is that you're going to find a buyer to buy it that's actually going to do the work on it. So really, your capital is going to be in marketing and any software that you use for doing that, and then also for earnest money deposits potentially, right? So that'll be the kind of the extent of the capital outlays of what you'd need to get started. So kind of figuring out what that is, like what you'd be able to do with that, you could do driving for dollars or door knocking and be able to get lists of distressed properties very easily that way, right? So it's kind of like the less capital you have, the more time you're going to have to invest in finding deals, right? So you're basically trading time for money. If you have more capital, then you can either hire somebody to do the grunt work of, like, let's say you decide you're going to do cold calling, right? So you're pulling distressed seller lists. You can hire a cold caller to basically start hitting those lists for you. And at least, so you're only talking to the people that actually say, yeah, I'm interested in selling. And then it's up to you to kind of determine, okay, are they actually truly motivated enough to want a cash offer and sell now, or are they somebody that's better suited for like a retail type deal? So Jessica, what's going on? She just dropped a message into the Facebook live chats here. What do you think about AI bots for the grunt work? I am very intrigued by that idea. I've seen some demos with Chat GPT having a conversation with somebody via text message, and the seller doesn't appear to know that they're talking to a bot, and it's it's kind of scary that you're able to pull out like motivation and try to get pricing information out of them and stuff like that. And then the bots will kind of flag the conversation as like, okay, here's somebody that actually might be motivated to sell. So I think AI bots is an awesome idea. I think Bryce Decor has got something in the works right now where he's got some automation going with Chat GPT and text messaging for real estate and some other industries as well. So I'm very interested to see what will kind of become of that, and how it works. Now, there's always the risk of getting litigated against if you're doing cold text messaging to sellers, and then somebody complains to the regulator that you're spamming them. And that's why I don't do cold text messaging any longer. I've just heard horror stories about people getting fined in the tens of thousands of dollars for sending text message blasts and then either accidentally sending it to somebody who complains or sending it to a professional litigator who then just files a complaint against them and ends up settling for too much money. What's going on, Tyler? See, you hopped on the call.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, so you were talking about the text that if you text it to the person, that are they on an uncall or untext list?
No, not even necessarily that. Like, so if you send somebody a text message and you are attempting to solicit something from them and they haven't opted into your text message system, they could in theory complain. And I don't know who the regulator is in this case, if it's the FTC or somebody else, but basically a text message campaign has to have an explicit opt-in. So if you're sending automated text messages, the people that you're sending text messages to, in theory, should have opted into that text message campaign in some way. And so if you're just blasting them and then somebody doesn't like it, or like there's known litigators, and I know some of the skip tracing companies will actually scrub the data that they return to you. So if you're getting a big list skip traced, they can scrub the data first for DNC numbers to remove those, and then they can also remove numbers of known litigators as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So
because I received text from unwanted.
oh yeah, it happens all the time. It happens all the time, no doubt. And there's wholesalers that are doing it too. I get text messages a lot on my rental properties, people saying, hey, like, would you be interested in selling your house at 117 Kansas Street? And I know who it is. Well, I mean, I don't know who it is. I know that they're wholesalers, right? So my response usually to that is, no, I'm not interested, but can you add me to your buyers list? So I'm cool with it, but I know when I was doing this before, there are people that like you get all sorts of nasty responses back from people, right? So it just takes one person to actually file a complaint, and then you could potentially end up in a lot of hot water. And
interesting.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I've stayed away with it. Like every time I've done it like a small handful of times, and it's easy, right? Because you can get the numbers and then you can just send it out to 1,000 people at once, and it's way quicker than calling people. But then there's that risk there, right? So it's something that we just don't do anymore at this point. But there's plenty of people that still do. And I mean, there's ways to try to get around it too, like the initial text message that goes out. You know, they try to make it so the first message isn't about buying the property, right? It's like, oh, hey Rob, is this the right, is this the right number or something like that? You know, something that isn't even about real estate necessarily, just to see if they've got a hold of the right person, and then hoping for a response back in that case. So
Okay.
yeah. Are you doing any texting?
No, not yet, actually. No, I'm looking into that, so that's why I was curious. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So
we don't
you got out of it. You don't do the blast text anymore?
yeah, we don't do the blast text anymore, at least to sellers. We will reach out to buyers for sure.
Mhm.
So if we've got a deal, like right now, we got a deal like down in Longview, got a couple deals down there actually. So we'll look up people that have bought properties down like in Longview and Cowlitz County, and we'll skip trace them, and then we'll try texting them or try calling them to see if they're if first of all we have a hold of the right person, and then second, if they're interested in buying another property down there. But we're not blasting out to like everybody in Cowlitz County that's bought a cash deal. So we're being a bit selective about who it is we're trying to contact and hitting them up specifically. And even doing that, we still get people that are like, you know, F off, take me off your list. You know, I don't want to, whatever it is that you're trying to sell. So, and I mean, that's because like the skip tracing isn't, you know, 100% accurate. We're not always getting a hold of the person that we're intending to get a hold of.
Mhm.
So, but in those cases, we're just hitting those buyers up one by one, and not blasting like everybody out at the same time.
I see. Got it.
Let's see here. What's going on? I lost a hold of the comments. So what's been going on with you the last week or so since we talked last?
Not much.
Comments. So what's been going on with you the last? Getting feedback again. So yeah, you were working on a deal, I thought, last time we had talked.
Yeah, it didn't come through. So
Okay.
let me
What
get another one. How long have you been doing wholesale?
Probably 4 years now. I started about 4 years ago. And I got into it as a way to kind of source deals for myself, because I was buying deals in Oklahoma City. Well, I actually bought a couple deals from wholesalers here in the Seattle area, and I saw what they were making on the deals. I was like, dang, if I had found these deals at the price that the wholesaler got it under contract for, that would have been crazy. It was like one duplex in Tacoma, wholesaler got under contract for $75K. I bought it for $125, and it was a deal to me at $125, right? But just the fact that he found it at $75 was crazy. And then another two duplexes in Tacoma, bought for $340. The wholesaler had found them at $300. And it was a deal to me at $340. So I was like, I need to figure out how to be finding my own deals. And so I started doing direct mail to like multifamily property owners, like 2 to 4 units. And so it was a very targeted campaign, like Pierce County. I sent out like 60 mailers, and I got some phone calls and went to go see properties. And I was like, wow, this is way more time consuming than I thought it was going to be. I'd go see these properties. The sellers really weren't very motivated. They want like full retail price, but they want a cash offer. So I was like, okay, maybe these wholesalers are earning their money after all. I don't have time to do this. I was working a full-time job at the time. And so yeah, it was something I just put on the back burner. But then I started looking for deals in Oklahoma City as rentals. And I was buying in Oklahoma. I'm not anymore, unless it's family. But yeah, so I got into it more, and I kind of changed up how I was doing my strategy as far as how I was finding deals. I tried a few different methodologies. I did Facebook ads. I had a cold caller, but I kind of settled on just basically networking like crazy with everybody I could that is in real estate, and having them send me deals whenever they found something. And so I was getting enough deals where I was like, I was buying some for myself, and I was getting enough where I was wholesaling then what I didn't want. And that ended up being, I was getting way more deals sent to me than I was able to take on. So I was just starting to wholesale more and more and more. Then they changed the laws in Oklahoma maybe 2 years ago, where you have to be licensed now, licensed agent, in order to be able to wholesale.
Yeah.
And so at that point I was like, it's not really worth it to get licensed down there for me. The wholesale fees down in Oklahoma are kind of skinny compared to Washington. So I shifted my focus back up here and just decided to go all in on this market instead. And that was a couple of years ago now at this point. So I still have a bunch of properties in Oklahoma and Indiana, and a few here, and then but pretty much I'm just wholesaling here in this market now at this point.
So you was wholesaling in Oklahoma basically virtually then, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that it forced me to delegate a lot of things that probably weren't worth my time to do, where I would have done them myself had I started wholesaling like here where I lived, right? So like getting pictures of properties or doing showings with buyers, like I had to find somebody and pay somebody to do all that stuff for me, right? Like $50 to go get pictures, or $50 to go do a showing or something like that, right? And if I think about it, if I had been here, and I probably, if I had a deal in Tacoma, for example, at the time, I probably would have like driven down to Tacoma to get pictures of a place, right? And that's going to be, I don't know, 2 hours of my time going down there and back, maybe 3 hours. And looking at it now is like, well, I'm glad I was forced to figure out how to get some, delegate this and find somebody else to do it, because I would have been doing it myself, and there's no way it would have been worth my time to do that, right? So yeah, it made me do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have otherwise done had I started actually wholesaling here in this area.
So how did you find those people to do that for you? Like Craigslist ads or?
So like TaskRabbit, Thumbtack are a couple of good sites for that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I had gone down to Oklahoma a bunch of times just to network. I was going down there every few months because I had rentals down there. And so I just wanted to meet more people. And so I was kind of building up my network down there. So I knew like a lot of agents and other investors. So if I needed help with something, I could ping them, and other wholesalers for that matter too. So I could ping one of them and say, hey, like I've got a property locked up, I need pictures on, like, can you recommend somebody for me that you could send me to, that I could, send them this address and they could go get pictures taken of it. So
There's an app called Proxy Picks that doesn't know. I don't know if I told you about that.
No, is it called Proxy Picks?
Yeah.
How much does that cost?
I think it depends, but it's like between like 40 and 100.
Well, that's not
Depending
bad.
where it's at.
Hmm.
That is a good deal, it sounds like. Is that just in Washington, or they do that anywhere?
No, that's a nationwide, I believe. Because I was using it for out of state.
Awesome. You happen to know if they'll do Matterport as well, or video walkthrough?
I think you can customize it to what you want. There was an option when I was looking at it.
So the cool thing, so I mean, I'm using InvestorLift, right? And so we occasionally see some stats that they publish regarding the deals that get sold, and deals with video walkthroughs on their platform tend to sell for I think it's a 7K higher assignment fee, and deals that have a Matterport 3D tour, it's something crazy like the assignment fee is like 20K higher than if you just have pictures.
Really? Maybe I
Yeah.
need to find one of those.
It's huge.
So curious, why did you choose the Oklahoma when you was here?
Why?
Yeah.
So I had bought a few deals here in Washington, and the cash flow on them was like really, really tight. And so my goal is is all about the passive income,
Mhm.
and the Midwest markets, the passive income is awesome. The appreciation isn't as great. So it's a bit of a trade-off.
I see.
But so looking at that, I already knew people in OKC and in Indy at that point. So I spent some time out there kind of building my network a little further. And I just picked those two markets to start in. So there was no like real deep analysis as what markets would be best to wholesale in, what markets would be best for like long-term rentals or short-term rentals or anything like that. It was just the fact that I happen to know people there, and those two markets cash flowed a lot better than this market does.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, nice. So you are in, if you ever need boots on the ground in OKC, let me know. You're down there. Are you wholesaling down there in OKC? I've got some properties there. I've got one for sale actually in Del City right now, and one in Altus. I had a flip, or I had a Burgo Bad in just outside of OKC. I'll have to do a Facebook reel about this, but I tried to burr this property, single family house in Del City, just outside of OKC. Bought it for $55K, put $35K into it. My assessment on ARV was 110 to 120K, and it was going to rent for about $1,000 a month. So my plan was to refi it with a valuation of 110K, right? So I could do a cash out or a rate term refi at least, and then have no capital left in this deal once I refied out of the acquisition loan. And so work was all done, got the tenant put in there, everything was great. And then the appraisal came back on the refi as I had started that process, and it came back at 85K. And that ended up just blowing up the refi, because I wasn't going to be able to refi at a high enough value to pay off the acquisition and rehab loan. And so I was like, I can't keep this property because I don't want to leave a bunch of capital sitting in it. So I ended up having just to put it on the market. I talked to an agent. She's like, well, we'll list it at 115 and see what happens. The inventory there was pretty pretty tight as well. Plus this thing was cash flowing pretty good. And so I was sad because this was a pretty good deal at the time. And so we ended up putting it on the market, 115, got an offer at 115, appraised again, 115, and now it's all done. So it's kind of crazy that when people talk about BRRRR, they don't necessarily talk about, like, probably the hardest part of the BRRRR strategy is the refi, because that appraisal is a total wild card. You don't know what it's going to come back at. And this is probably the fourth deal now that I've worked on that has been blown up by a bad appraisal, or an appraisal that was lower than what I thought it should have been. So it's kind of crazy. So this is why it's always important to have a number of exit strategies with any deal, because you just don't know what's going to happen on the other side when you get through all the work. Like what's the condition of the market going to be like? You know, is the appraisal going to go okay? If it's a flip, are you going to be able to sell? I've had this happen too, where I had a flip in Indy. It got finished during COVID, and it just sat on the market. Like nobody was even going to look at it, because nobody was buying in downtown Indy during COVID. And so we had to end up pulling it off the market and refining it and turning it into an Airbnb. So nice. You got 2 deals under contract in OKC now. First deal was 30K assignment fee on that first deal? Or is it 30K the property value? Yeah, OKC is there's a lot of good deals there, especially if you're looking for cash flow. So what else you got in the works, Jason? What have you been up to?
Let's see. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Been doing a couple of things. I've just been in the waiting with that one project I told you I had going on. None of the deals are really working out, man. So
On with the sellers, or on the
just deals in general, man. So just deals in general aren't working out, man. Working my own list right now. Working my skip tracing, because just need to generate some capital at the moment. So
how's the skip tracing thing going?
oh, the skip tracing is fine, besides me being banned off of things on Reddit.
What happened?
Man, just being banned on Reddit.
For what?
Offering the service. Said I was spamming. How can I spam if I do it one time? It's not spam.
Oh, you're not allowed to like advertise on
Nah, I guess not, man.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. So, other than that, just some outreach and JVing a couple things here and there, see what pans out, working on some leads up here. Trying to get these houses before they go into auction. Doesn't seem to be very fruitful either, but never done it before. So, and they're a lot closer to me in terms of, it's 5-minute drive.
Yeah, we're working on guys, mind if I take this call? What's going on? Why is it ringing on my laptop? Yeah, we're working on a couple of pre-foreclosure deals right now. So 2 of them, one of them down in Longview, and that's the sub 2 deal that we got available right now for like a 15K down payment, and then taking over the mortgage payments, which are about $1,200 a month. So that's a pretty sweet deal for somebody if they got a property that they want.
What's the rehab on that?
Somebody's double dialing me here. So yeah,
money calling, bro.
It could be money calling. Somebody from California.
That's not money calling.
How's those tenants paying in the Longview properties? Are they on time with the payments?
Are you talking about that 3-house deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that 3-house deal, it's been a challenge. So the tenants are on time. The tenants were served a 60-day notice to vacate because the seller's selling the property, right? So he gave them a heads up basically that the property is being sold, but all the tenants want to stay. So he has raised the rent to market rent, but he doesn't have a written lease in place.
Mm.
And so this is like sounding super shady, right?
Yeah.
And so it's making it difficult for buyers because the buyers come in and see, oh, okay, if they're at market rent, then this is an awesome deal because it's almost like $4,000 a month, I think, total. But the buyer or the seller won't make the tenants sign a lease because his lawyer's advising him against doing that, because if the buyer falls through for some reason, now he's got these leases in place and another buyer might not want the tenants.
Mm.
So, but the buyers are coming in and saying, well, I'm not going to buy this if there's no written agreement with the tenants that the rent is this amount, right? So what we're seeing if we can do is basically, if the buyer doesn't want to take the seller at their word that this is what the rent is, which I wouldn't if I was a buyer, enforce that 60-day notice to vacate and just have all the houses be vacant at closing. So that's, I think, what the plan is going to be. Is we'll just end up selling these vacant at close, and then the new buyer can come in, and if they want to do any repair work to it, they can, or they can put new tenants in there at market rent. But that's why this one's been a challenge to sell, because we've had people that are interested in it, but this weird situation with the tenants and the seller not wanting to document anything has been really difficult. So his lawyer's advising him not to sign anything because it's going to make it difficult if a buyer falls through, but it's making it difficult for a buyer to want to lock this deal up without any sort of formal paper trail as to what's going on with those tenants.
But are the tenants really gonna stay and willing to pay the market rent, or you think they're just blowing smoke about the market rent that they're gonna pay?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say because buyers are liars. Sellers are too. So the seller could be saying one thing and it might not be true. So if me as a buyer, if I'm looking at this deal, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to count on getting the $4,000 a month rent from these 3 tenants, and take this guy at his word and go ahead and close on this thing. And then all of a sudden I realize, oh, they haven't actually paid anything in 6 months to this guy.
Yeah, I believe so, because if they was paying good on the rent, why would he not, why does he need to sell it or in foreclosure, like you're saying?
Oh, this one isn't in foreclosure.
Oh,
this
is not the foreclosure one.
No, this one is a seller finance deal. So he's just wanting to get out of real estate, and he wants to do seller financing to avoid the tax hit on. Yeah, so this one's straight up seller finance. The other one is pre-foreclosure, subject to, that one's vacant, and that one will need some work, but somebody can get in there for $15K out of pocket plus closing costs, and they can do the work. There's 3 buildings on that property, so they could potentially rent it out as a garage or a shop or something like that, and potentially cash flow pretty good because that mortgage payment's pretty low at $1,200 a month. So that one I'm fairly confident we're gonna get sold pretty soon. We have had probably about 80 inquiries on it at this point. And I think everybody sees that 15K down payment on a property with an ARV of more than 300K, and they're kind of licking their lips. So the challenge on this is like, it's down in Longview, right? So most of our buyers being, in the Seattle area, this is a bit of a drive.
Yeah.
So we've been working on trying to build our list a little bit more down in Cowlitz County, South Washington, because we haven't done a whole lot of deals down there previously.
I see.
So, but we got one sub 2 deal sold there last month, and that was I want to say like a 30K or 40K down payment to get into that one. But that one was almost turnkey. It was in really good shape. So that buyer was just gonna do some cleanup and then put a tenant in there and rent it out. So piece 30K assignment fee in OKC. That's a pretty awesome assignment fee for that market. My average assignment fee over everything, all the deals I did down there was about 5K. I was doing a lot of JV deals though. I had another wholesaler that was helping me dispo down there. So, and we were doing a lot of deals off the MLS as well, wholesaling a lot of deals off the MLS at the time. So those assignment fees tend to be a lot skinnier anyway, because you're trying to basically move an MLS deal as quickly as possible during the inspection period. So Luke, going back to you as you hear us kind of discussing things, any questions, comments?
No, just more intrigued. Just going for it. I heard the skip tracing part. I was like, what is skip tracing?
So skip tracing is like, let's say you go out and you can buy a list of properties that are behind on their taxes, for example, or let's say you're driving for dollars, right? And so you're just making a note of addresses and you're saving those, and then you go look up the tax records to see who the names of those people that actually own the property. Skip tracing is the process of trying to look up the phone numbers for those people. So there's various companies that you can basically send a name and an address to, and then they'll try to find all the phone numbers that might be associated with that person, and potentially email addresses as well. So typically what you'll do is driving for dollars, you might save like a couple hundred addresses. If you're driving around for long enough, you send those addresses to a skip trace company with the names, and then they'll send you back a bunch of phone numbers for those people that have those phone numbers that have been associated with those people. And then you can try to cold call them at that point and see if they actually are the ones that own those properties. And so there's services that you pay for, and they tend to be more reliable. Things like I've used Lead Sherpa in the past is one of them. But what
was that one that you just used? Lead what?
Lead Sherpa. I'll type it into the Zoom chat here.
But or you can keep the dollars in the community and come see me.
Or you could see Jason. Yeah, he's got skip tracing. So, or if you're just doing like one-offs, and I don't know, Jason, if you have a minimum number of records that you need to do, or
I don't want to have a minimum, but I don't want to be doing 57 and 25. So my minimum's kind of gone up a bit. So I'm kind of at the 2K minimum. I see why people do that now.
Okay. Yeah.
But
so
just depending. I mean, if you got like a 800 list or like 1,000 list, I wouldn't mind doing it for you. But
Yeah, so I mean, Luke, if you end up like driving for dollars, for example, and you have like, I don't know, 25 properties or something like that, what I would do is I'd probably just start with True People Search and go from there. So that's a website. You just type in a name and I think a city, and it'll give you kind of a best guess as to what their phone numbers might be. And it'll tell you if it's like a landline or a cell phone number. So that works well if the name is not like a super common name. So if you come across a house, you look up in the tax records, oh, this is owned by John Smith, lives in Tacoma, Washington, and you put that in True People Search, you're going to get like a zillion results, right? So that's not going to be very fruitful. Whereas if you were to send it to Lead Sherpa, for example, they might be able to do a better job of figuring out which John Smith it was that actually owns that or is associated with that particular address. But the thing is, I don't know is if Lead Sherpa, like a lot of these skip tracing companies have a minimum number of records that you need to send to them in order to be able to process it, right? Because they're counting on people pulling like a huge list of data and then just sending it to them to skip trace the entire batch.
Most things, if you don't have a minimum, I think it's anywhere from 18 to 30 cents. And then it also depends on what you're going to get back. Like for me, you get 5 wireless, 5 landlines, LLC, next to kin, email if available. And that's for 10 cents. But with those places, it might depend. You might get 1 cell phone back, maybe not an email, definitely not a next to kin, probably not an LLC, but you're going to get like a wireless number and maybe a landline. So you got to look at what you're going to get back in terms of what you're spending the money on.
Nice. So you said, Jason, from you, it would be 10 cents per listing?
10 cents per record, and you'll get up to 5 wireless, 5 land, LLC if there is one there on the property. Next to kin if there is one that we can connect to on the property, and an email if there's one available.
And what was your minimum?
I mean, just hit me up in the DM and I'll work something out for you. If you're just getting started, I'm not gonna dive there and gouge you, bro. I'll treat you right, bro. I know how it is, man.
So which company are you with, Jason? Or
I got my own.
Oh, you got your own.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we contact you?
I will jump on Facebook and give me a second here. I don't have it. Well, drop your info. Why don't you drop it both on the Zoom chat here? And
that's right.
On the Facebook Live chat.
I got so many windows open, Rob.
I do too. That's why my machine is like got its fan going and is just crawling, especially with two video streaming screens going at the moment here.
I don't really use Zoom that much. Where am I supposed to type this up? I'm just supposed to click his name and type it to him.
Go to chat on the bottom, or I don't know if I'm on my phone, so
yeah, I don't have a. Oh yeah, I do have a chat blind, bro.
All right, let's see.
I don't do many Zooms, but this is awesome.
There it is. All right, cool. Do you have a website set up, Jason, for your skip tracing, or?
I got in skip tracing for the mentorship stuff. So there is one set up, but I believe that we're changing it. I haven't talked to my partner in that for about a couple of weeks. No, actually about a month, man. To keep it a buck. He's been going through like a lot of family shit, like deaths, and everybody's in the hospital. And it was the same time when I was in the hospital. So it's been, when I was in the hospital, it's been that long since we've had, a talk. So So I do have one, yeah, but I just send it out.
So Jason, you just said mentorship. What type of mentorship what are you guys offering in your mentorship?
I offer something, but I mean, this is Rob's platform, so I'm gonna let Rob.
Oh, okay, my
I
fault.
like to step on toes like that. But if you want to hit me up about it later, I mean, I just
Yeah.
talk about that here. I'm just not that kind of person.
Yeah,
that's cool.
definitely hit Jason up. You can hit me up as well because I have mentorship also. I'm just depends kind of on who you vibe with, who you feel like you align with as far as strategy and stuff like that. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Jason and myself, and we can both let you know what we offer, and if it's something that you think might be a good fit for you.
The only thing I want is Rob's dollars, because Rob has a tons of dollars. I need Rob's dollars. That's what I need.
All right. Well, I need some lunch. I think that's what I need at this point. So
wait, before you go,
yeah.
Because I usually get my list pulled when I do my list, but I don't want to do the foreclosures, but I think I'm gonna have to go that route. How are you getting your foreclosures locally, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't pull the foreclosures.
You pull high equity.
So this is the thing. This is another thing I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of cold texting, and I'm afraid of pulling pre-foreclosures in Washington.
Cold texting is so easy. I love cold texting.
Yeah, we were talking about this maybe before you got on the call, but
got you.
Threat of litigation and stuff like that.
I wouldn't worry about that. As long as you're not pestering them and you apologize for the call and you apologize when you're done, whatever the interaction, there shouldn't be a problem. Nobody's gonna date as long as you come across that way. Because we've had this conversation before, and I prefer texting. I run campaigns for people, at least texting campaigns. I don't know. It's just an easier way to see. That way, you're not burning up the dials. And so it's
yeah. There's a risk. I mean, I know some people that have got fined for.
Are they using a service, or are they using their own number?
I don't know what they were using. These were some pretty big wholesalers. So, they happened to hit a professional litigator, right, as part of their text message blast. And then got fined upwards of, I don't remember how much it was, but it was like in the tens of thousands of dollars. So anyway,
what?
That said, that's when I don't do cold text blasts, and
you know why that is? Because people get a very generic message. I have very specific tailored messages.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that can help reduce your risk, right?
Because you won't get flagged by the carriers, and that's what it really does, is it being flagged by the carriers and the verbiage that you use.
Mm-hmm.
So anything about money, property, things like this, you got to outskirt the address, words, certain keywords that change all the time will get you flagged.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that. And then pre-foreclosures, you're running a risk there because it's illegal to target pre-foreclosures in marketing. So you can
not know that.
Get a pre-foreclosure through some other means, like let's say you're pulling like a tax delinquent list or water shut off or something like that, and you get somebody that happens to be in pre-foreclosure, like that's one thing. But to actually pull a list of pre-foreclosures and start hitting them up, like if somebody finds out that you're specifically targeting pre-foreclosures in your marketing, you can get in big trouble in Washington. And then the other thing that I would also make sure is if you are working with somebody that's in pre-foreclosure in Washington, that you make sure they know that it's advisable for them to talk to a lawyer, because if you end up wholesaling the property and then like one of their family members or even they like say, oh, wait, you stole a bunch of equity from us, you can get in a lot of hot water here, because they changed the laws back during the last housing crash because a ton of people, I guess, got taken advantage of. And so yeah, we don't we don't target pre-foreclosures. If we happen to get a lead that is in pre-foreclosure.
Got you.
know, we'll make sure we're just extra careful about it. But I know there's other wholesalers here that do target pre-foreclosures, and that's how we found these sub-2 deals and seller finance deals and stuff. Well, the seller finance.
Got
deals.
you. So you'll take them, but you won't actively pursue them. I got you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be the one that actually is marketing for them and and locking it up. But if somebody gets it locked up, then we'll help them at that point. So if you want to hit up pre-foreclosure lists.
Hey, Rob, you know me, man. I always take somewhat of a risk, man.
So, all right, cool. So we'll be back next week, same time. Drop me a DM if you got any questions, you got any deals you want a second pair of eyes on. Love to help you take a look at it.
Hey, Ohana Movers, what's your name?
My name's Luke.
Luke, got you. Are you on Facebook too or no?
Yes, I am. I have my personal one and then my business one. So Ohana Movers, my business, either one, I respond to both, or
Okay.
I don't know what my other tag is, or.
I'll shoot you a message real quick.
All right, cool. And then Rob, I'm going to reach out to both of you guys about the mentorship part of it, because basically that's what I'm looking, just looking at, and then seeing where I'm the best, what's the best fit for myself.
Yeah, cool. Sounds awesome.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate everything, the insight, all the information. And shoot, I'm going to be hopping on for majority of the stuff. So this is, to me, is free education. So yeah, I appreciate you guys' time. You guys have a good day.
Awesome. Yeah, you too. Good luck. Okay, bye-bye.
Yep.